Okay, I realized that I gave you 3 tweening tutorials and I kind of had you jump in right away without really explaining a whole lot in Flash. So what I want to do is we're going to walk through Flash basics right now. We're going to talk about the tools that you'll see on the left hand side. We're going to talk about the timeline, adding layers, working with colors, and all the tools. So this will be a tutorial that's probably between half an hour and 45 minutes. You'll have another one which is a little more advanced basics, and then we'll go through and do even more this week. So you're kind of going to be pretty packed. What I'll do is I'll upload the first tutorial, which is this one, and then in the midweek I'll load up the second one. So watch for the second tutorial, work with this one, do what the project suggests, send me the files, and I'll upload those files under your name at the class website. Okay, this is your basic Flash 8 or Flash CS, Macromedia CS Design Studio. This is the design view. We're going to teach you how to be designers, and then at the very end of the class we'll teach you action scripting and some basic programming. You'll notice this is you'll see this line, it's got numbers. This is called a timeline, and each one of these is a frame. And you'll notice if I hold it over, it says there's a frame right there. Right now there's only one frame in our timeline and one layer. It's pretty easy to add layers. You'll notice there's a piece of paper that says add, and as we start to add layers, what happens is it will add a layer on top of each layer. Currently, if I select layer 1 and I hit add, you'll notice that it puts layer 3 right on top of layer 1. So one of the things you want to be doing is paying attention to how your layers are set up. It's easy for me to move layer 3. All I have to do is click it and move it up. Now click it and hold it and move it up. If I go to add another layer, it comes in and it adds another layer. If I want to delete a layer, you'll notice I have delete layer, and I just click delete layer and it takes it away. So it's pretty easy to add and subtract. We have folders, and we'll talk about that at a more advanced level when we want to add folders and put these layers in folders, because good file management in Flash is going to help us down the road. And there'll be times, let's say, when we're putting together a character or a face and we want to put all the eye pieces in an eye folder, or we want to put all the head, if we're working with a complete body, we want to put the whole head in a folder, something like that. So it keeps us, gives us good file management. You'll notice we're in scene 1, and as we start to talk about scenes, movies or websites or things like that can be made up of multiple scenes, and we can jump between the scenes. We do that with action scripting and interaction. We can do it with buttons. We can do it with certain interactive behaviors that we want the user to use. So we have scenes. You'll see right here that we have we can edit scenes. If we had more scenes, they would be listed here, and we could go in and click on that scene and it would take us directly to that scene. You'll notice this is our libraries. We currently don't have anything in a library, and we'll talk more about that as we start to create shapes and group them with objects. We'll take those objects and create either movie clips, we'll create graphics, a graphic clip, and we'll create other types of symbols that can go into our library, and buttons. Those are the 3: movie clips, buttons, and graphics go right into our symbols library, and they're usually things that are grouped together. Okay, and then we can change the way we look at everything. Sometimes you'll see where I want to see everything, because I'll have things right now I'm seeing. It says 100%, but this is really show all. If I have something, this is the stage, this white section here, and then this is what's called being off stage. So if I have something and I'm working and I say I want to just go in and show frame only, which means this shows only the stage, I can have stuff outside this stage anywhere I want. That's why we have the ability to scroll. A lot of times I might put something out here to come in later on the timeline, or I might want to hide it until I animate it to bring it in. There's different reasons, and we'll talk about that. Okay, and fit in window, which is just basically really makes this fit in there. This is my properties window. I'll leave this one open because I'll use it a lot. If I close it, my stage becomes much larger. And then this is our action window down here. We're not going to work too much with this right now, so we're probably going to go ahead and keep that closed. But I'm going to go ahead and leave the property window open because I am going to use this a lot. You'll notice here that I have my color window, and if I click here, this is all the things or components that I can use that work with colors. I have color swatches, but for right now I'm just going to go ahead and close my color window. It's not important. I can move this if I want. Okay, notice that if I click it, it'll open it back up, and if I click it again, it'll close it. Same way here, if I click this, it'll close my properties windows, and if I click it again, it'll give me access to those. Let's talk about our tools right here. First, actually, let's go to Modify Document. Here I can put a document in and say this is Basic Tools. This is my title. Okay, I can put a description in here, and I can change my dimensions. Right now this is the default. I can go in and change this to any size, and when we learn to make banners, we'll learn to make vertical banners, we'll learn to make horizontal banners, and this is where we'll go ahead and change how those banners are set up here. And then I can change my background color, which means my background is my stage color. Currently I'm at 12 frames per second. If I wanted something that was movie quality, I would be about 32 frames per second. And I'm working in pixels. If you're more comfortable working in inches, you can work in inches. That's quarter inch, half inch. If you're more comfortable working in decimal inches and you know that a quarter inch is 0.25, then go ahead and work in decimal if you like. But be consistent, and that's one of the things you want to remember is 72 pixels equals 1 inch. So if you put something that's 72 pixels large, you know you've got something that's at least an inch big in there. Once I've made my changes, I hit OK, and you'll notice that now my stage is black. My work area here is now going to be black. When I export this movie, my background's going to be black. So these are some of the things you want to think about. What is it you're working in? What is it you're doing? And is black the color you want to be in? You could make it blue, you can make it red, you can make it pretty much any color that you want. I'm going to go ahead and leave it black for now because that gives us the opportunity to use some white and things like that. As we start to work, we'll start to go through these pull down menus and use more and more and more of these options right here. But for right now, let's just talk about our tools. These first 4 tools, this is the section tool, this is the select tool, this is transform, and then this is gradient. These won't work until we have something on the stage here. Okay, I don't have anything here. Whoops. I don't have anything in here to work for the selection tool, so I don't have anything to select. Either for the sub-select or for free transform, there's nothing here, nor color gradient. We don't have anything to adjust the color with. This is our line tool. We use it sometimes, but I'm going to be honest, I'm not going to use it a whole lot. It is the stroke tool or line tool, and it comes up with this color. So if I come in here and I put a line down, notice that it's blue, so it gives me the blue line. My color size is down here, so if I want a large line, I can go ahead and pick in my properties and set it up so that when it comes up, it looks like this. It has a rounded end, which means I have a cap selected. Okay, which means I can go in and have none, which would give me a straight line. I go in and I can have rounded, as we've already seen, and then we get square, which is basically the same as none. I can go into custom and I can make these changes here. I can make them sharp corners so that if I come in here and you select this, it sharpens the corners, and you'll see what we have here, these corner intersects for each line. I can also come in here and play with the dashes. If I want a dashed line, I can have 6 dashes at 6 points. These are all places where you can come in and just kind of play with the line in custom. There's different things that you can do with the lines. Okay, and it should give you a very good look at what it looks like. Okay, we can go in here and get some of these might look familiar. These might look familiar from similar to Photoshop brushes. Okay, and then I can come in and play with these. I don't use this that often, and I'll tell you because it's normally I'm not using these kinds of effects when I'm using Flash because it's vector art. Another reason I don't use these is because it's vector art and I select these. This is okay. This isn't a problem with the vector art. But when I go in and I'm playing with let me go back to my line, and I start to play with some of these dashes and things like this, I start getting a lot of points in my vector art. And these are small dashes, but each one, if I was to come in here and select this, I could be playing with a lot of internally here, a lot of stuff in here, and I don't want to play with it. And again, I don't usually use the line tool because I do, but I rarely do because I'm usually using a few other things. But I do use it, and we'll talk about that more. I can go in and select all this and hit delete and take it away, or I can make one big selection this way and notice that it's selected everything. We get these little dots. I hit delete and it's gone. So I don't have anything there. Notice that we're working in layer 3. So anything that's going into my drawing or onto the stage right now is going under layer 3. If I want to be working in layer 1, I should be selecting layer 1. But right now it really doesn't matter. This is the lasso tool. It's similar in some ways to Photoshop's, but it's not. It's a selection tool, but the problem is it doesn't select based on color. It doesn't select based on points or objects like Photoshop does. It just selects where you select it. So let me go ahead and give you an idea. I'm just going to put a circle, and you'll notice that it's going to have a stroke or a line around it, and it's going to be red. So I'm just going to come in here and select. That's a big stroke. Let's just make this solid. And I'm going to go ahead and notice if I come in here, I can select just the stroke, and I can change it back to solid and make a change on the size. So now I have a very small stroke. I select the center. That's the fill. Okay, so let's be sure. And you'll notice down in my properties it shows the fill color right there is selected. If I come out here and I double click it, I'm still only going to get the stroke color. Okay, so back to our lasso tool. I come here and I want to take a piece out perhaps. And I start to draw, and I don't even have to connect it. Okay, so I'm going to come in here and I don't even have to connect, and it just automatically closes the shape for me. Okay, let's do that again. If I come all the way like this, it gets me where I selected it. I can hit delete and it takes it out. Okay, so the lasso tool isn't based on anything but your movement of your mouse, or if you're working on a pen tablet, your pen. Okay, and we can take that out. It's a little difficult for us to work because we're working black on black. We can take that out. Okay, again, I'm just going to make a big selection, come in here and get rid of all this, select it, and delete. Another tool that we can use, and I probably in some instances would prefer the pen tool over the line tool, and this is easy enough. This is a little more tricky though, and I want you to understand how this tool works. I'm going to click, and it starts to make a section of points for me, and as I start to come up and I get over the point where I selected before, notice what it did. It closed my selection, it gave me a stroke around it, and it filled using the fill. So what the pen tool does is it comes in and it makes a series, allows you to make a series of lines, and then I have to close it, and as soon as I close it, then it fills it for me. And that's kind of cool. It allows me to go in and play with it. Now as I move this out, one of the things you'll notice I did was I used my line tool and I grabbed the line. Notice what happens. I get this little curve at the end of my arrow, which means I can curve this out. Okay. Once I get to a point though, okay, a junction, it treats it a little differently. It goes, and you'll see it gives me the corner at the bottom of the arrow. That tells me I'm actually playing with a point now. So now I'm actually going in and I'm playing with a point. Okay. So these are some of the things that that the pen tool does. And this is why we can work these 3 things right here, or 4 things right here, only work when we have items to work with. They can't work independently. There's nothing for them to work with, so they don't work. Let's go to the free transform, and I'm going to select this, and notice I get these boxes right here. If I put my arrow over this one and I move it in, notice what happened? I only selected the fill. It must not have selected everything, and it didn't, because see this corner right here? Right over here on this edge, you'll notice that I didn't select. I left this little piece out, and so what that says, the computer doesn't make any assumptions. It says, you must not have wanted to select the whole drawing. When I really did. I really did, and it was just a mistake on my part. But it doesn't make any assumptions, and you'll notice I didn't select it here. So it didn't select the stroke. So let's go back out. Actually, I'm going to get rid of this. Double click on the line, and once it's joined, it'll do everything. If you click once, it just selects the one piece. If you double click, it selects all of it. Okay, we're going to get rid of that. Now I'm going to come in here again, and I'm going to select everything. Now notice everything's selected. Okay, I've got both sides selected here. Let's talk about what free transform can do. This is our pivot point, so we're going to talk about that in a little bit, but this is our pivot point. This is important for you to know what that is, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But with free transform, I can scale this both horizontally and vertically. If I hold the shift key down, I can do it so that it's at the same ratio both vertically and horizontally. If I let it go, I can do it any way I want. And I can do them both at the same time. If I just want to do it vertically, you'll notice I can change it that way. And if I want to do it horizontally, or maybe this is vertically actually, up and down. And it does everything that's selected. Now the other thing that I can do is notice as I go around to the corner here, I can rotate this. So if I want to rotate it or I don't like the way it looks, I can rotate it around. And we'll do that a little more in the advanced basic when we start talking about building things and getting them to change. I use free transform a lot actually, especially in drawing. It allows us to take some objects and invert them or turn them around, and it gives us the ability to really make some impact on a drawing or chrome or things like that, and we'll talk about that more. You'll notice that this allows me to skew it. So once I get these arrows that look like this, and I get them by coming here, this arrow gives me this. Once I get over the pick box here, it gives me the ability to go up and down, but this one gives me the ability to do this. Okay, so that's how we get that. So once we get this, we get that ability now, and if we like it, click off and it's done. Obviously, if I want a color gradient, I can change the color once I go to put that color in and do a color gradient. Let's talk about, we're going to save the text tool and these 3, which I use a lot. We'll talk about text in a little bit, and we'll talk about one of the exercises that I want you to do when you are working with text, and that's the text tool is huge. It has the ability to do tons and tons and tons of stuff. So we'll talk about that and how that tool and our fill tools can work together. Okay. So again, this was the pen tool. This is how we got these little pieces here to go in and make a selection. Okay. If you don't fill it, it's not going to do anything. So you got to get it, you got to fill it. Okay. Again, if I want to delete something, I can double click it, hold the shift key down, click it, select the next item and hit delete, or I can make a big box and hit delete. Let's talk about the sub-select tool. That tool gives us the ability to look at all the points in our drawing. If I double click this little box, I get these little grips. that allow me to change individually the look of the line. So this line from this pick box to this pick box changes. If I select it, I get this pick box and it changes. You can see the grip changing here. If I come in here and I select this one, I'm not getting my selection like I do here because my pick boxes probably aren't being manipulated or aren't out there. And the reason they're not out there is because they're not curved. You only get these pick boxes on this side when you have a curve. Okay, so I'm not going to get the pick box on this side. Notice how I had this pick box, it's got two grips. Okay, this gives me the ability to compound my curve. This one only has one pick box because this is a straight line. So I only have the ability to manipulate that. How do I get this to be different? Okay, notice if I move it, it's just going to move everything and I'm not getting a curve like we did before. Okay, the way I get this to curve, if I want to make this line curve, is I go back to the selection tool and that's where I get the ability to curve that. Okay, but the sub-select tool is not going to do that. That goes in at a different layer and allows you to play with the pick boxes. Now I have this. Okay, now I have this, and I can go in and, I can get a Belzer curve. That's called a Belzer curve. I can select this one and start to play with that if I want. So this gives me the ability to really get a more complicated curve going. Okay, so if I really want to get in there, I got to be kind of careful. Now I've affected these curves. So that's why I have these pick boxes popped open like this. So because I've gone in now and affected all three of these by manipulating that one. Okay. And I can just go back in and select only one. Okay. I select that one and it's because all of these curves now, because this is like a Belzer, I think it's called a Belzer curve, is all connected. Okay. Same here. I'm going to get two pick boxes and kind of just go in and play with it. You'll notice what happens as you start to move them around. You can see they really get kind of twisted in there. And we can make really complicated shapes. If I don't like the pick box that I've selected, I don't want it there, if I hit delete, notice what happens. I get rid of the pick box. So again, I'm going to Control Z. I use that, learn that command right away, Control Z or Apple Z on your computer if you're using a Mac. Select off. Let's go back in. I'm going to select that pick box. I hit delete and it's gone. Okay. Same thing here. If maybe I want to straighten this one out here, I go in, I hit it, and I hit delete and it takes it completely out for me. Okay, so these are some of the things that the sub-select tool allows us to do. It'll bring up all the points, the sub-points within your object that you're working in. And in this case, notice that I'm working with the, this is the stroke tool, which is connected, and once I play with the stroke, it also is affecting the fill. What happens if I got rid of the stroke? I'm going to select the stroke, double click it. Remember, this will only pick between this pick box and this pick box. So I'm going to go in, double click it, hit delete. I'm going to go in and hit the sub select and select it. Holy crap, now look at all the sub selects I have. And that was because we had a lot earlier, and I'm going to go in and I can go in and if I don't like the way some of these are, I can go in and actually take them out. I don't have to keep these. Maybe I don't want this one. If I go in and hit delete, it takes it out. But remember, it's going to change the shape. You're eliminating a pick box. So you're going in and changing something. Sometimes it doesn't matter. Like in that case, it didn't matter. I went in, I selected this pick box. It didn't. It affected it a little bit, but not enough that really, notice it's right there. If I go in and I selected it, what it ended up doing is making this a straight point. And sometimes we might just want to do that. Sometimes we might just want to take a pick box out. Okay. So you might go, I really want that to go from here to there. I'm going to select that, hit delete, and there you go. Again, if you want to add that curve back in there though, the sub-select tool is not the one we use it with. It's this one right here. Okay. So that's how we can kind of go in and play with these shapes and make some kind of really radically looking different objects to use within our website or our graphics. This is all vector art, so it's going to come out clean and crisp. All these lines are going to come out smooth. They're not going to be pixelated. They're going to look exactly like it does right here. And that's what we want. We want a real crisp, clean line. That's why Illustrator is vector art. That's why Fireworks is vector art. And Flash is vector art. And it also is extremely, extremely small file size. So we're pretty fortunate in that aspect. Okay, I want you to go ahead and play with those tools right now. And we're going to come back and we're going to talk about the rectangle tool, we're going to talk about the oval tool, and we'll talk about the text tool. We'll talk about the rest of these tools too, how I really hardly ever use the paintbrush or the pen tool or the eraser, but we will talk about the fill and the paint bucket and things like that. Okay, if you have any questions, email me. I want you to follow the tutorial, kind of get used to working with the selection tools, how you can go in and select things and delete them. Real shortly, I want to show you that if I go in and use this selection tool and just hit that and hit delete, I'm only selecting portions that need to be deleted. So that's one of the things you want to remember, that in this case, I can just go in and delete just pieces if I wanted to. Okay, if I just want to come in here, and I got to be careful because I got to start out here. If I select inside, it's not going to allow me to come in and delete anything. That's different. We'll talk about that later. So go in, play with this, have a little fun, and I'll meet you back here for the second part of this tutorial.